In a secret place underground, something terrible happened when a very dangerous biological weapon got out of control, infecting everyone who worked there and turning these people into zombies. A team of special soldiers was sent to see what was happening in this place called the Hive, but during the mission, they were attacked by the infected, and only 2 managed to get out alive, Alice and Matt. But the story doesn't end there, because the 2 were captured by the Umbrella Corporation, a very powerful company that did genetic testing on them using a very dangerous virus called the T-virus. This same company sent another group to verify how the situation was in the Hive, but this time they ended up accidentally releasing not only the infected, but also some super deadly monsters called lickers. The team was eliminated in a few minutes. When the Umbrella Corporation saw that things had gotten completely out of control, they secretly removed some important people from there, including a scientist named Dr. Ashford and his daughter, Angie. But during the journey, the car that was taking Angie had an accident, and quickly, the infection spread from the Hive to the streets of Raccoon City. The people who lived in Raccoon City at first didn't know anything about the virus and thought it was just another case of violence in the city. The police even took some infected people to the station. But a police officer named Jill realized that something was very wrong. She acted quickly and killed all the infected in the station, warning everyone to get out of Raccoon City as fast as possible. While all this was happening, an Umbrella Corporation executive named Kane took the opportunity to activate the Alice Protocol. Alice woke up in a hospital in Raccoon City and saw the streets in total chaos, understanding that the virus from the Hive had spread. Soon it got dark, and almost all of Raccoon City had already been taken over. It was early morning and almost all of Raccoon City was already dominated, and to prevent the situation from getting even worse, the Umbrella Corporation made a total blockade in Raccoon City. Those who managed to survive gathered on a bridge, which was the only way out of the city, but only those who passed the verification could leave safely. Jill and her team also arrived at the bridge. Suddenly, an infected person appeared in the middle of the crowd, and Jill's partner, Peyton, wanted to help, but ended up being bitten on the leg by the guy who had turned into a zombie. Luckily, another police officer helped, and together with Jill, they killed the infected. When he saw that, Kane got scared that the infection would leave the city and ordered the verification to stop, closing the passage so no one could get out. Hey! What would you do if you woke up in a laboratory without remembering anything and discovered that the entire city is infested with zombies and you were the only hope for survival? The movie I'm going to summarize is called Resident Evil 2: Apocalypse. It's an American film that mixes action, horror, and science fiction. It's one of the most intense films in the franchise, and for me, it's one of the best in the saga. The Resident Evil saga is all or nothing. You either love it or you hate it. Before getting into the recap, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell, and leave a like to receive the best recaps. This decision made everyone very angry, and people started shouting against the Umbrella Corporation, trying to pass through the blockade by force. The Umbrella Corporation showed itself to be very cruel, using force to prevent the defenseless residents from passing, leaving them with no choice and making them return to Raccoon City full of zombies. That way, the entire city became a testing ground for the infected, with some soldiers and police officers still trying to survive against the living dead. Without knowing, they had been abandoned by the Umbrella Corporation. Because of the number of infected and the lack of ammunition, the defenses were quickly broken. Only Carlos managed to take 2 companions through the siege. Meanwhile, Alice, who had left the hospital, arrives at a gun store. But while she was getting weapons, she started feeling sick and realized it was a strong reaction from the T-virus in her body. And Alice remembered the scene of her being modified. On the other side, Dr. Ashford asked Kane to save his daughter Angie, but Kane said no, leaving Ashford with no choice but to solve this alone. Dr. Ashford managed to get into the city's camera system and found where his daughter was. He started looking for survivors in various places in the city, and quickly, he found Jill and her team among those still alive. Jill and the others arrived at a church where they found a living person. The journalist who was with them wanted to film the evil deeds of the Umbrella Corporation, but inside the place, they heard some strange noises. Jill went to check alone and found an apparently calm woman sitting in a chair. The priest appeared suddenly, saying that the woman was his wife, But to Jill's shock, she saw that the woman had become infected. The crazy priest was feeding his infected wife with pieces of people. At that moment, the infected suddenly broke free. Jill was going to shoot when the priest put himself in front of her to protect, and the infected bit the priest's neck. Jill managed to kill the infected with her shots, but the journalist was terrified and wanted to leave the church, only to see a bunch of infected arriving outside. The three managed to lock the church door, but soon saw that the Lickers, even more dangerous monsters, were on the roof. Scared, the guy ran away, not realizing that Lickers prefer to chase people who are alone. Soon after, the guy was killed right there by the Lickers. What's even more scary is that there are several of these creatures. They're very fast and agile, and their skin is so hard that normal weapons can't even pierce it, even if they hit the Lickers. It doesn't do anything. Quickly, all their ammunition ran out. Waiting for the next Licker attack, the three could only stand there waiting to die. At the critical moment, a motorcycle crashes through the window, breaking everything. And it's none other than an improved version of Alice, now with superhuman powers and better reflexes. When the motorcycle fell in the middle of the wreckage, she forcefully knocked down a Licker, making the monster fly through the air. With the accelerator at maximum and showing total control of the motorcycle, Alice jumped from the motorcycle, accelerating towards the threatening Lickers in front of her. Alice took advantage of the perfect moment and shot with great precision, hitting exactly the motorcycle's fuel tank, causing a huge explosion that lit up the entire church with orange fire. With impressive and fluid movements, she killed one of the Lickers, which was burned by the fire. The other Licker, wounded but not dead, wasn't ready to give up. Alice quickly grabbed 2 machine guns and fired a bunch of bullets at the furious Licker, while at the same time destroying the thick chains that held heavy things on the wall. Although the Licker dodged the bullets with agility, it couldn't escape the enormous cross weighing several tons behind it, which fell directly on top of it. The Licker that had been hit before also came back to attack. Alice kicked a nearby chair towards the Licker, then quickly grabbed the gun and shot it, sending it far away. She then approached and killed the last Licker that was trapped under the cross. After leaving the church, the group passed through a cemetery. There, Alice saw that Peyton had been infected by the virus, and she was going to shoot him when Jill stopped her, creating great tension. Jill said that when Peyton turned into a zombie completely, she would take care of him. Alice lowered the gun. Who would imagine that in the next second, the dead in the cemetery would suddenly turn into zombies? The journalist was almost attacked, but was saved in time. But more infected were coming out of the cemetery, but Alice and Jill managed to deal with the zombies without problems. After fighting, they managed to leave the cemetery. Meanwhile, outside the city at the Umbrella Corporation Command Center, the team saw that the T-virus infection had reached its maximum. To test Alice's fighting abilities under Kane's command, they activated the Nemesis program. Right at the hospital where Alice woke up, Matt, who was also transformed by the T-virus, woke up from his bed, transformed into Nemesis. A helicopter appeared and dropped 2 weapon crates especially for him. Seeing this, Carlos and Nikolai, who were also at the hospital, suddenly understood that they had been abandoned by the Umbrella Corporation. Meanwhile, Alice and Jill were walking through the empty streets. When they were crossing a street, Alice sensed that Nemesis was following them. When the two realized it, Nemesis had already reached them. Alice suddenly turned and fired several shots at Nemesis, but didn't really hurt him. Jill tried to help by shooting, but it was the same. Alice asked the group to run while she distracts Nemesis. All of Alice's attempts have no effect on Nemesis, and he uses a launcher to destroy a car. Alice barely escapes and ends up entering a building. Although Alice managed to escape, Nemesis doesn't give up and chases Alice. She barely manages to escape through the ventilation duct. Jill tries to start the car to escape, but Peyton, who was already quite infected, suddenly turned into a zombie, attacking the group. Jill, with no choice, killed him with her shots. The journalist filmed all of this, documenting the evil deeds of the Umbrella Corporation. Everyone finally managed to meet up, but after that, they received a call from Dr. Ashford, who explained his daughter Angie's situation. He said that if they managed to save his daughter, he would arrange transportation to get them all out of there. The group accepted the mission and started looking for Angie. Through the security cameras, they saw that Angie was at a school. They went to the school, But at that time, there were not only infected at the school, but also infected dogs. When Jill and Alice entered the school, the infected dogs suddenly attacked them. Alice got separated from Jill during the fight. Jill could only take Angie to escape, but when she reached the kitchen, 2 infected dogs followed her. In the emergency moment, Jill had a genius idea to turn on all the gas stoves in the kitchen. Jill used a pan to knock down one of the infected dogs. Jill escaped with Angie and threw a lit match behind her, but the explosion she expected didn't come, and the matches suddenly went out before falling to the ground. Alice, the last to arrive, threw a lit cigarette into the kitchen. Right after seeing Angie, Alice sensed that she was infected with the T-virus. She then pulled Angie's arm and saw several injection marks on her arm. To everyone's surprise, Angie had the T-virus cure in her bag. It turns out that the T-virus was created by Dr. Ashford himself. Because of a serious disease Angie had since childhood, she had to use crutches to walk. To save his daughter, Dr. Ashford created the T-virus, which could repair cells and successfully cured her. But the results of Dr. Ashford's research were stolen by the Umbrella Corporation, which used this to create various biological weapons, causing the current crisis. Carlos and LJ also arrived at this place. Carlos found the bodies of his team companions. Alice saw that Carlos was infected with the virus, but fortunately, there's a cure available. When the group left the school, they received a call from Dr. Ashford. Dr. Ashford confirms that his daughter is safe and warns them that there's a helicopter going to City Hall, but they'll have to fight for it on their own. But as soon as they hung up the phone, Kane discovered Dr. Ashford's plan. Alice's group quickly arrived at City Hall, and after seeing how many enemies there were, Carlos and Jill started their action. They easily killed 2 guards, but a hidden sniper aimed at Carlos with a Barrett rifle. But just when the sniper was going to pull the trigger, something covered his vision. It turns out Alice had already gotten onto the roof. After killing the sniper, Alice used a rope to descend to the ground and quickly killed the remaining guards. That way, the team successfully got the helicopter. But when they were about to leave, Kane suddenly appeared and took Angie hostage. The rest of the group had no choice but to surrender. On Kane's side, there were Nemesis and Dr. Ashford. It turns out that all of this is Kane's plan. The goal is to capture all of them and use these prisoners to force Alice to fight with Nemesis again, because Kane wants to find out who is better between the 2 transformed beings. Alice naturally wasn't going to let anyone order her around, but in the blink of an eye, Kane raised his gun and shot Dr. Ashford, a very important person. Forced to obey the cruel orders, Alice started a brutal and intense hand-to-hand fight with Nemesis, 2 genetically modified products of the Umbrella Corporation, facing each other in an epic duel. Despite Nemesis's armor-like hard skin and strong defense, Alice's superhuman agility and great combat skills enhanced by the T-virus made the fight practically equal, with both showing extraordinary powers. Nemesis is even gradually losing to Alice's coordinated and non-stop attack, which uses advanced fighting techniques. A furious Nemesis tears off a piece of metal as a weapon and immediately launches a counterattack on Alice. With the weapon, Alice was pushed back and finally fell to the ground. To ensure a fair fight, Kane threw 2 weapons on the ground. Seeing this, Alice immediately grabbed one to block an attack that could be fatal. With the weapon in her hands, Alice gained the advantage again. A few rounds later, she knocked the weapon out of Nemesis's hands, then took advantage and kicked, spikes piercing Nemesis's back behind him. But as the fight continued, Alice remembered the scene of Matt being transformed and stopped. And Matt seems to have gotten back some of his memories. But Kane orders Alice to kill Matt, and when Alice can't do it, he orders Matt to kill Alice again. Without him expecting it, Matt had gotten all his memories back and used his weapon to kill 2 soldiers. Alice took the opportunity to grab a weapon and fight back. At the same time, Carlos and Jill also took the opportunity to free themselves and grabbed weapons on the ground to join the fight. Kane saw that the situation wasn't good, so he gave the order for the bombing. A nuclear bomb will be launched immediately, completely destroying Raccoon City in exactly 5 minutes, wiping from the map all evidence of the biological catastrophe. Kane desperately asked why the helicopter hadn't taken off yet, only to discover that LJ had taken control of the cabin and knocked him down with a strong punch to the face. At this critical point, 2 attack helicopters aimed at Alice with military precision and started shooting non-stop. She managed to avoid the bullets with superhuman movements, but when passing through a glass door, she was immediately surrounded by 3 well-trained soldiers pointing their guns directly at her. Alice remained calm, seeming to surrender and disarm, but she had already thought of a plan to fight back. After killing the 3 soldiers, Alice saw that her companions were also in danger, so she immediately ran to help them. Alice continues shooting at the helicopter with her pistol, but the bulletproof glass doesn't break. Just when the helicopter locked its aim on Alice to open fire, Matt appeared, firing a rocket that destroyed the helicopter. But he was also hit by pieces of the destroyed helicopter and died. After the explosion, Alice woke up and saw Matt dead. They ran to the helicopter, which took off but left Kane, who had done several bad things, behind. The infected quickly overwhelmed him, but soon after the helicopter took off, the nuclear bomb arrived. The shockwave from the nuclear bomb sends a piece of metal flying directly towards Angie. Alice runs to defend her from the attack. The strong shockwave made the helicopter crash in the desert. Hours later, the Umbrella Corporation people arrived at the accident site and found Alice almost dead, but they didn't find other survivors. Quickly, the video filmed by the journalist, which started being shown on the main news channels, was apparently the revelation video from Jill and Carlos. But the Umbrella Corporation quickly used the media to spread lies, blaming the nuclear explosion on a nuclear power plant. The Umbrella Corporation escapes the blame, while Jill and Carlos are falsely accused of being wanted criminals, causing panic among the public. On the other side, Alice woke up in a giant container, once again being improved by the Umbrella Corporation. She temporarily lost her memory and her body's full powers. But as memories returned to her mind, Alice quickly recovered all her memories and became even more powerful than before. She knocked down Dr. Isaacs and some guards effortlessly and managed to kill someone through the security camera. The guard died bleeding after just one look from Alice at him. When Alice left the laboratory, she was confronted by a large group of armed people blocking her way. At that moment, a car slowly approached and Carlos and Jill appeared. They pretended to be high-level bosses of the Umbrella Corporation and took Alice. They don't know that everything is a planned trap by Dr. Isaacs, activating a new protocol. And so the film ends with this suspense. What rating would you give this movie? Comment down below if you want me to bring the complete Resident Evil saga. And don't forget to turn on the bell to be notified of new recaps. So see you next time.